Welcome, welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. I am Dave Peaty. I am honored to be on the board of Publishing Professionals Network. And obviously, we've got the conference coming up a week from tomorrow, and we are thrilled to have Linda Ruggeri again guiding the process of how to get the most out of not only this conference, but really a lot of the stuff is really applicable to any conference. So um, I'm going to get out of the way after I do just sort of the usual bookkeeping, which is one, if you haven't signed up for the conference yet, tomorrow is the deadline till midnight. I don't know. I'm not going to be up at midnight, but I'm the one checking it. And if you're not a member of PPN, it's only $25 for individuals. We highly recommend you joining, and we are an all-volunteer nonprofit. If you want to get involved, if you want to be involved with the conference next year, there'll be a survey, and you can provide your contact information and join us. It's a wonderful team that's put the conference together this year, led by Emily Boyd, who's here on this call. So welcome, welcome, everyone. This is being recorded. We will share it with everyone because we know some folks couldn't make it. And we're hoping for, some good interaction. So there's always advantages to being here, but I think the recording will be very helpful as well. Okay, I'm not going to blather on anymore. I'm going to turn it over to Linda so that she can start the process. Take it away, Linda.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening for some of you. Good late afternoon for some of us over here on the Pacific Coast. It's good to see everyone. My name is Linda Ruggeri. I'm a nonfiction editor based out of Napa Valley in California. And I will be, I think the PPN conference was happening for a few years when I was in LA that I could never drive up and schedule everything to be there. And finally, the last 2 years, I'm able to make it. So it's been a great experience to finally be able to be there in person. But the reason that we do these sessions the week before the conference is because there's a lot of sharing that goes on, and it's to start getting into the mindset of what it's going to mean to be at the conference in person, and a lot of kind of like thinking about why we're going for those of us that are going to be there in person, or why we want to be there, what we hope to get out of it, who we hope to meet. If we can just do a little bit of pre-planning, the experience at the conference itself ends up being so much more fulfilling. And the aftermath ends up being more fulfilling because you know what you went in for, and then you get to do a little kind of post-mortem to see how it went and what were the unexpected things that happened. And something that I'm always surprised about with conferences is that and Paul Nylander and I have talked about this when we were at IBPA last year, is the magic happens in the in-between spaces. Yeah. The magic really happens in the hallways, when you're having lunch, who you got to sit down next to, when you were just so exhausted and needed a cup of coffee and a breather. That's when the good, solid conversations come through, and the richness, and where everybody's allowed to be vulnerable and kind of, see where they're at and share what they're going through. So I find that these conferences are not only great to be there in person because of the amount of things that you're learning and taking with you, but also because of the magic that happens in the in-between spaces. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think we're putting in the chat if everybody can mention where they're from. Perfect. Great. Berkeley, Colorado, Oakland, Minneapolis. This conference, I was looking at the schedule last week, Emily and Dave, and you guys put together such a great lineup of people that are coming. So it's going to be hard to spread ourselves thin through the different sessions, I think. But is there anything that has anybody not looked at the schedule yet, or is there anything that you found on the schedule that you're very excited about, that this is like the one thing that you wanted to get a chance to see this year, if anybody wanted to share?
Well, I just want to say, one of the interesting things that's new this year is we are doing a two-part session on AI, just because it's such a huge topic, and there are so many different ways to approach it. And I think I really struggled with, am I going to see both of them? Am I going to see one of them? I didn't know what to do. So I'm still kind of figuring that one out.
Yeah. And then the podcasting, Jim, you're involved with that one? Am I correct? Oh, wait, you're muted. There you
Yeah,
go.
sorry. Yeah. Yes, it's the first time we've done, I mean, Emily can correct me if I'm wrong. It's the first time we've done a session devoted to podcasting, and I chose it because I just felt like it's such an integral part of publishing now. And there's
Distribution, yeah.
and we've got a lovely group of people interested in attending. So,
Yeah. It's funny because how we thought about podcasting, I think a few years ago, which it was just like hearing from other people and their experiences. And now it's become like a distribution channel
yeah.
that you need to
No.
be aware of in your marketing opportunity to really hone in on that niche audience or your target audience to get that word out. So, yeah, I'm fascinated. That's definitely one that I want to be at. I'm going to put the link to the schedule too in the chat in case anybody hasn't seen it yet. Oh,
Yeah,
I
what was interesting, I was talking to the panelists for the podcasting, and one thing that came up is like that is where a lot of people, that's how they buy their books. They hear it's not so much about reading reviews, it's about listening to the author on a podcast that's determining what they buy in the bookstore.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was just listening to one. I don't know if anybody listens to Slightly Foxed, which is a British podcast.
Oh, British.
They put out 4 podcasts a year, and they only talk about the books that they're books that are out of print that they are republishing. And I would say that yeah, every single podcast I end up picking up a book that I would have never heard about or not had they not, and they become a credible authority. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
podcasting will become, I think, a really important channel as we move forward in publishing. Any other things that people are interested in seeing about the conference? I see that Simone, you were saying printing and production roundtable. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you're looking forward to for that one?
Yeah, I have experience as a managing editor, and I'm just looking to see like what's out in the field and what the common concerns or like considerations that people who work in production and printing are facing these days.
Excellent. The other thing that I think, David, you were saying the whole thing about AI and how much we need to know about it, whether we are support it or we don't support it, we use it or we don't use it. It's just the stuff that we just really need to know about. But on the other hand, what I think is fascinating is as much as that whole thing is taking place, there's a huge craving for authenticity and human connection and real
Yes.
human beings,
Yeah.
and that they can both coexist, I think, in the same world. So it doesn't have to be an all or nothing, but I think this conference, one of the things that's going to bring out is how nice it is to actually talk to another human being about a subject that I'm passionate about, that I don't have to read about it on some AI generated blog post or something that I don't know what the source of information was. So, anyways, there was a handout for today and that we have for the session that you don't have to fill out, but I just want to mention it, and I'm going to share my screen in a second if I can get this.
And before you do that, I just want to like shout out Linda's session. Linda's going to be leading a session on networking for freelancers, how to set up your network. So I know Simone and Aurora, thank you both for coming. You are both our scholarship folks, some of our scholarship folks. We're very excited to see you here, excited to meet you at the conference. But if those are paths you're pursuing, that'll be a really great session. And Gina, you might be a freelancer, but I see that you're not local. But anyway, I'm excited for Linda's session.
I'm excited too. And Jen is going to be there also helping me facilitate, as will Dave. And let me, oh, where did my screen go? Okay, let me put the full screen mode here. No, it's not the actual size. Here we go. Okay, so this is the handout. It used to be a little booklet that you could fold, and if you brought your like binoculars, you could really see what was written. So we've decided to make this larger, full size, so that it's comfortable to read, it's comfortable to write in. You can use it before, you can use it after, it becomes kind of your conference memorabilia too. But basically is to try to understand where you are as a business and maybe which of these boxes you check and which are the things that you still aren't able to check or you're not ready to check, and maybe ask yourself why. and what of those missing boxes, which are the ones that you'd really like to incorporate, but maybe don't have the right information to do that yet. So I've also included, some talking points. And this is like so 101. But when you're used to working alone in your office for 8 hours a day at home, and you go out into the real world, I tend to fumble how I introduce myself, and I tend to forget what it was that I was supposed to highlight at that specific conference. So if I'm going to an editing conference, of course, I'm focusing on my editing business and maybe my editing skills or presentation skills. But if I'm going to a publishing conference, I also want to talk about the books that I've authored or the projects that I've worked with or the publishers that I work with. So I find that the way we introduce ourselves is going to change depending on where we're hanging out or where we're going. So this is kind of like just an idea to workshop and to say, what do I want to highlight when I'm going to this conference? Then conference goals, I think, are really important because a few years ago, I went to a conference at IBPA, and there was this one publisher that I really wanted to meet. It was like the ideal publisher that I wanted to work with. And I knew that I wanted to work with them. I just didn't know how to get there. And I crossed the head of publishing from this press every single day, 2 or 3 times, never knowing what do I say to them? What is my goal with them? Until I finally narrowed down what I thought I wanted to say or what value I could bring to them. And so after that conference and after being so afraid and waiting to the very last minute when the conference was about to end to introduce myself to this publisher, I decided that going forward, I would set goals for every conference and what I wanted to accomplish. So when you set goals, you might have more or you might have less. I feel that it makes every person you talk to, it makes the conversation much more intentional. Or the time that you're going to spend at the conference or the free time, you'll also use it more intentionally to reach those goals that would align with your business or the way you want to scale your business or grow your business. And it's the same with who do you want to network today. There are some really big names coming to this conference, and this is kind of your shot to learn from them, to ask questions. So who are those people that you'd like to meet? And if you do want to meet them, what are you going to say? This is like the starstruck situation. When you meet your favorite star, you don't want to come across as just a fan. Is there something meaningful you could say? Is there something you could offer? Each one of you knows what, would work best. And if not, you could ask someone else as well who might be in the same boat. So there are some conversation prompts that we have that I think these are really good because when you're able to talk, for example, this is a challenge, like a challenge I'm facing in my work right now is XYZ. Or can you talk about your services? One thing I can offer help someone in your situation is, to share my experience when I did that same exact thing, and this is what happened. So these are some really good prompts on how to start a conversation so that you're a little bit prepared in case you're on the shyer side or the more introvert and you're not sure you're going to be the one opening the conversation. Or if you see someone, in the quiet zone that might not be with a group of people that you'd like to reach out to but don't know how to approach them, you can start a conversation about what book, what was their last book that they read that they were excited about, or what do they like about it? Or, what was their main goal for coming to the conference? So we have a couple of prompts that you can use to interact with other people. And this is a section where if you want to keep track of people, not everybody carries a business card at conferences anymore. Fortunately or unfortunately, I love business cards, but not everybody does. And so in case you come across someone that might not have a business card, this is a great place to jot down their information, especially when you collect a business card. A lot of times we forget what was meaningful about the conversation. So it's a great place to write down what you guys talked about. So if you plan on following up after the conference, you know exactly what to open that email with and say like, hey, we were talking about poetry. This happened to me recently at the AWP conference. I had been talking with a gentleman for about half an hour about editing, different types of editing. and we go to exchange business cards, and he was the California Poet Laureate. And I had no idea who he was. It was so embarrassing. And I'm like, that's when I should have exchanged business cards, maybe at the beginning of our conversation. So, so you never know, but, and expect the unexpected, I think. That's the other thing too. Just be open to new situations and to new conversations and to really stepping out of your comfort zone. So those are kind of some helpful hints. There is one more thing at the end of that handout that I'm not going to share my screen because you can see it, but it's about other organizations that you might consider joining or looking into that might have volunteer opportunities, speaking opportunities, client opportunities. So, you know, you have a specific skill set, and those might be organizations where that skill set could be valued.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to note and maybe ask if you want to elaborate on. So one of the things that I love about the PPN conference is that it's pretty small. It's very human-sized and accessible, and it feels like you're not part of a horde of people trying to get to this one person or something. And but there are conferences that are, well, in fact, I think you were talking about one the other day.
Oh my God.
They can just be huge. And
AWP was 11,000 people,
yeah,
which that's when you realize, when does a conference have to stop growing? Because you know, we couldn't get into a lot of the sessions that I had signed up for. I couldn't get into because they were at capacity and there were fire marshals escorting people out. That's no fun for anyone. So that was the opposite of what I feel PPN is like, where you're going to have a lot of chance to connect with other people. But yeah, I think that is one of the benefits, is a smaller conference, smaller venue. You're going to get a chance to connect with a lot more people. And if you're not going to be at the conference, is there a place where people will be able to download handouts, Dave, or are there any recordings besides the keynote?
That's I'm going to let Jim talk about that, but there about the downloading handouts, I think we've asked people if they have handouts, if they can bring them so they're physically there, but
Okay.
we often will include it in our post
Perfect.
conference emails out to people as
Excellent.
well.
So if you're not going to be there in person, don't forget to pester the PPN members, board members, and be like, hey, remember that handout that I would really like? I think that's fair game, so that you should be able to ask for those handouts, and
Yeah.
we can probably make those available.
And we try to do it pretty quickly afterwards, because otherwise I'll forget.
Yeah, for sure. Is anybody here in the meeting not going to the conference? Okay. So Paul, is there anything about this conference that you're really curious about, or you would have wanted to know more about as a follow-up maybe afterwards?
I'm not sure about that. I certainly would love to come, and I am a PPM member. It's exciting to see. Yes, it's such a great group. So
Definitely. Okay, well, we'll make sure to send you the handouts. You know us too well to know that yeah, where to get us or where to find us or pester us. So
that is
and
true.
we will be recording the keynote. Jim can speak to other things, but the keynote will definitely be recorded in full. Not all the other sessions will be, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Jim, did you want to add to that, or?
Well, we are taking the opportunity of the conference to bring in a videographer who is going to be at the first part of the conference, just maybe the first 3 hours, doing a couple of interviews and basically taking some roaming footage so that we can put together what will become a highlights reel of the conference to promote PPN. And we're super excited about it. It's like you said, there are some big names that are going to be there, and it'll be lovely to capture that.
Yeah, and you want to be prepared to meet the big names because you don't want to be silent, so yeah, do your homework before you come to the conference, because it's important to know how you're going to introduce yourself, and just being able, everybody is approachable. This is what I've learned over conference going, that everybody is approachable if you've encounter them with kindness and with respect. Most everybody will be happy to speak to you. So,
Well, Linda, you actually you touched on something that I'm not sure if it was a regret of yours about speaking to the poet laureate. And one thing I would say is that I've been in the position more times than I'm ever going to admit that I didn't realize who I was speaking to. And to be honest, it actually worked in my favor because the conversation was so authentic and that the person actually appreciated that I wasn't trying to, make an impression or get to a point. It was just a real dialogue.
yeah, definitely. So the best approach to look ahead at who will be attending, I'm assuming, do you mean Aurora, like the speakers that will be there? And if
Yeah,
so, yeah.
either way. Just I know with other conferences I've attended, there's been like a list of attendees or networking, as we're talking about, do your homework before and make sure we know who. Looking at the speakers, is there other details available?
We don't make the attendee list available for other attendees. So for this one, it would just be the speakers that you
Okay.
could, just check out. But if you, I just wanted to say that all the PPN board members, who a few of us are here, we will have that indicated on our name tags. So if there's someone that you kind of think you want to meet, and we might know them, or we might know someone who knows them, so please approach us and maybe we can facilitate an introduction. If you're like unsure of how to approach the actual person you want to talk to, I'm like Linda said, everyone's approachable, everyone's a person. It's a small conference, but just know that we're there as resources as well.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And about that, I love what you said, Emily, because I think that sometimes we forget that one of the biggest assets of networking, I think when you're networking intentionally and authentically, is to open the doors for others. And one of the things that I like about conferences, and when you belong to an organization like PPN for many years, is that you've come to know different people, and all you have to do is say, do you need to meet anybody? Is there anybody that you're looking forward to meeting that you would like to talk to that I can introduce you to? The same way you would do that by email, you can always facilitate that for somebody else. And then, Aurora, next year it'll probably be you introducing a new PPN member to someone who's going to be at the conference. So those things tend to pay themselves forward a lot. But a lot of times when we're networking, it's not so much about what you can kind of take from the relationship, but what you can bring to the table and to the relationship first. And that's what yields usually, in my experience, the most rewards. So, Dave, could you, for those that haven't been at the conference before, do you want to give us, or could you give us a little rundown of what the day is going to look like?
Yeah. First of all, I want to address the thing that you brought up about the in-between spaces, right? So not all of them are in between because one's right at the beginning. And a lot of people, I used to do this, which is like, I don't want to go to the beginning where people are just milling around. I want to go and arrive right as the first session is starting or whatever, not realizing that, of course, that actually that's a great part to be there. So it starts with coffee, tea, and pastries and some sort of light breakfast items. And there's a fair amount of milling around there. And we're going to try to have a few more tables for people to hang out at if they want. Is that correct, Emily?
There'll be like a couple little high top tables, like couple,
Yeah.
but not they don't anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also just real quick you'll see when you get there, but there's like the main lobby where Dave's talking about all the people, but then on the other side in the gallery, there's all the sponsor tables, so people can go and meet our sponsors and meet, find out what they do. A lot of printers and Simone, like there are a lot of printing people who are sponsors, so that might be fun for you to meet.
And then we'll round people up to make sure that they're going to be attending in the sort of the biggest room, the Goldman room, is where the president of the organization will come in and do a brief sort of welcome, and pretty quickly we'll get to the keynote speaker. I think everyone was pretty excited this year. Do you want to talk about her at all, Emily? Because I kind of feel like it's, a coup, a feather in your cap.
Yes, yes. Thanks to Jim here, who facilitated the introduction and connection to our keynote speaker, Jane Friedman, who's a very well-known publishing industry reporter. She has the Bottom Line newsletter. She's written books. She is flying in for us, which was just a great, as Dave said, a big coup. As you know, as a not small nonprofit, we do not have funds to pay huge speaker fees, and she is not she's just coming, and she'll get a small honorarium, but she's coming, so we're really happy to have her. So I think that'll be a really great way to kick off the day. And then she's also on both AI panels, so she writes a lot about AI and everything. So yeah, that will be very exciting. We're excited for that.
Yeah, and the time between sessions, between the keynote and the first session is what, 20 minutes? And it's amazing how much can happen in those 20 minutes. It's always, I mean, I'm a big fan of, getting a good seat, but really there's always a good seat in these, like we've talked about, it's not going to be a ginormous one where the fire marshals are kicking you out. So that's really not an issue. And really, I think the connecting with people in between is really a great way to go. Then after the first session, we have lunch, which again, great sort of networking time. That is, I think the weather is supposed to be quite nice, if I'm not mistaken. You never know. But there's both an indoor and an outdoor space outside, and it's right above Gather Restaurant, I guess, and it's really quite pretty, and it's just really nice to connect with people, and you end up talking with people about what they attended and what you attended, and either sharing notes or sort of letting people know what they missed and that kind of thing. So that's a super fun time. I'm usually running around also trying to do a million things to make sure that the afternoon is going to go well. Same with Emily, because she's been responsible for making sure that the food has arrived on time and it's distributed. But it's a really fun time. And then we've got this second and third session with the 20 minutes in between. And then at the end, we'll have sort of a closing speech, but we'll also have the presentation of the Distinguished Service Award, which we give out to someone who's done outstanding work supporting the publishing field and the people in it. So it's fun. And it all winds down, what, a little before 5 o'clock, Emily? Yeah.
And you're going to be on such a high that you're going to be like, I want this to keep going. This has to keep going. And then you're going to get in your car or walk home, and you're going to get home and be like, oh my God, that was the most exhausting day of my life. And now I have all these follow-up work to do. But no, it's really thrilling. I would like for all of you to think about, for those of you that have been to the conference already, what's like maybe one of your favorite memories of the conference to share with the rest of the group. And if you haven't been to the conference, specifically what you're looking forward to, or what you would like to feel or accomplish maybe a few days after the conference or a week after. What do you hope to get out of it? Because I think kind of like putting that stuff out there into the world helps us reach our goals sometimes when other people hear them. And while you all think about that, I wanted to say that sometimes at conferences, it can get really overwhelming with all the people that you don't want to forget to talk to. And these might be people that you've met at a previous PPN meeting that you just couldn't sit down for 5 minutes or say hi to, or you're during lunch, you see them at another table and they're engaged with other people and you can't approach them. Don't forget about those people that you want to meet, and make sure to connect with them and just say, I know we can't speak right now, but I definitely want to have a conversation with you about book design or about book printing, or what are you seeing, whatever it is that you want to talk to them about, and note down their email address. So, and give them the heads up that you will be reaching out to them, because this is the space to create those opportunities for future conversations. And all of us, because we work in publishing, I know all of you work with editors. I know all of us work with, book designers. All of us work with publishers. So we're all very much interconnected with the work that we do, and we can all create business opportunities for each other. So that was one thing. Yeah, I think that's important to put out there. In terms of, I'm going to go around, and I don't know, Emily, would you be willing to start with maybe what one of your favorite PPN memories might be?
Yeah, I mean, they're just it's hard to say, but I mean, I'm always excited to see some people that I don't see, and from year to year. I only see them maybe at the PPN conference. So that's always fun. Maybe some former coworkers or current coworkers, since we're still working remote. That's always nice too, to connect. I really enjoy meeting the scholarship folks, the people who are new to publishing, maybe first time conference. That's always really exciting. We have the most scholarship folks this time ever, so that's very exciting. Um, and I think the keynote too, it's great to just kind of like energize the day, get a nice like kickoff, and I think Jane will be really great at that. We've had some great keynote speakers. So I think that's always something I remember, to just like engaging everyone from the get-go and kind of getting them excited about the day and publishing as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. Jen, do you want to go next?
Sure. One of my favorite, well, last year I volunteered, and I volunteered the check-in booth, and that was really fun. And that just, you have these mini conversations because there's people waiting to check in, but it's kind of fun just to put your mind around all the different jobs and roles that people are in the publishing world coming to this conference. And then it was fun to have that in my mind going through the day, and to be able to say hello. It was actually very good for networking. So I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, that's a strategic spot at the conference, the registration desk, definitely.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, Dave.
I was actually just waving goodbye to Paul, but I did want to say that, these are weird times we're in. And one is, as Emily alluded to, there was the pandemic where we didn't see anyone in person for a lot of time. So being able to, I remember that first conference after we felt like it was okay to kind of get together in person. And it was like it was a thrill just to see anybody kind of in the way. That was the first time Emily and I had ever met, and we have been working on putting the conference together for practically a whole year. So that was really good. But I also think because of the turbulent times we're in, each of the keynote speakers, I think did a great job about talking directly to us as people within publishing, but also acknowledging these kind of crazy times we're in. I don't know what Jane's going to talk about necessarily, but I think that felt very reassuring to a lot of us who felt like this is a weird time, and I'm having a difficult time pretending that we're going on sort of day to day like nothing's unusual is happening. And that was one of my most memorable times, including last year's when Catrice, the president of PPN, spoke. I thought they did an amazing job addressing that kind of stuff too. So just wanted to say that. Oh, I know. There's one other thing. Sorry, I know I'm sort of totally derailing, but there are two things that PPN does that folks should know about and use as an opportunity if they connect with someone. One is once a month, on the second Thursday of the month, we have a virtual Zoom. It's just a meetup where people Zoom in from all over the country because it's too hard to get together in person or whatever. And we just kind of connect. And sometimes we only talk about publishing, and sometimes we talk about publishing and the latest movie we saw or whatever. But I could totally see that as a great place for people who met at the conference to kind of reconnect, even if maybe they weren't as local and can't connect in person. But we also are starting to do in-person meetups. And those are happening on the third Thursday. These are all in general. Things can change depending on the schedule of what's going on. But those are two different possibilities about where we can try to use the structure of PPN as a way to sort of continue the networking that we've done.
Yeah, for sure. Jim, what about you?
Well, I mean, I've only been to one, which was last year, but I will say that I got there super early and bumped into Emily, and we ended up chatting about, living very close to each other, growing up in the neighborhood, etc. And we just hit it off in a way that it allowed me to broach my interest in getting involved with PPN as and the next thing I know, months after the conference, I'm sitting on the board.
And
So
the conference committee.
and exactly, yeah. So that was just a really nice memory of the power of networking, and also just a really authentic coming together with someone I'm enjoying working with. So, and also the other the other thing, it's not a bad thing, but I didn't have a name badge because I had signed up literally like the day before. And so I had to do like my own little hand scrawl tag, but it actually served as an icebreaker when meeting other people at the conference. It was just something that was I kind of laughed about, and yet it drew attention to my editing service, and it allowed for conversations to just take off organically. And that was just really it was something that at first I was kind of embarrassed about, and then I used it to my advantage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can totally relate to that. I think of sometimes like this conference being when you work for a big corporation and then there's this cool hangout lunchroom area where you get to meet the people that you actually bond with and that you actually like and that you actually have a good, and it's like I feel like that's the PPN group. It's like the cool kids of the company spread out over a very big company that hang out all together in the same place. And I go to a lot of conferences every year across the country, and this is because of the size of this one. And I don't know if it's the magic that you guys have there in the Bay Area, but it is, everybody is genuine, everybody is authentic. There's no, I don't get the posing thing that I see at other conferences or the detachment. If people are asking you questions, they're genuinely interested in what you have to say and the work that you do. So it feels very, very real. And that kind of feeling that you take home with you afterwards, for me at least, it makes me feel that that was a day well spent. That was money. That was a great investment of my time, of my energy. And I came back fuller than when I left probably in the morning. So I definitely think, yeah, it's a positive experience. Gina, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're looking forward to?
Sure. This will be my first PPN conference, and I decided to attend. I'm coming from out of state, but I decided to attend because I am making as a business decision. I'm leaning into some of my professional organizations that I've joined recently, and both long term. And I'm a book indexer, so I spend a lot of time with indexers. But I'm so fascinated about the rest of the publishing world, and I've gotten to know an agent, and I've gotten to know a designer recently, and I have a little network of some editors locally here in Colorado that we get together with through the EFA. So I want a chance to broaden my network and learn more about an industry that I love. That's near and dear to my heart.
Definitely. And Gina, you know what happens? So I'm an editor too, and I used to go to editorial conferences. And then for some random reason, I ended up at a different conference, the IBPA one. And the minute I walked in, I was only going because I was kind of like I had to go for something. And I walked into that room, and this is what's going to happen at PPN at a little bit of a smaller scale, but everybody in that room is either a potential client or a potential referral for a client. And we forget that a lot of times. Sometimes we don't want to go to conferences because of how much it costs, or I have to drive, but then if it's the right conference that's going to lead to other things, the return on investment is so much larger in the long run. So yeah, so I'm glad you're going to be there. And then I tend to forget faces, so if you see me there too, please make sure to like come up and remind me that we've talked, that we were at the session. I hope to remember everybody. Simone, how about you?
Hi. I'm excited to just be in person with people. I've worked remote as an editor since like 2017, 2018. Not in, the full managing editor capacity, but I've just found it very difficult to make connections in person, and I feel like I don't thrive in an online networking environment. And so any chance that I can get to meet people who are doing similar things as me, or, who I can talk shop with in person, I'm there. But I don't have, I don't have goals in mind necessarily. So the worksheets that you shared earlier are going to be super, super helpful.
And I would pair those up against the schedule and see if you can think outside the box, to see what comes up. Like, everything is allowed. Any idea that comes up, you're like, oh, I wonder if yes. Let's write that down. You don't know, but let's write it down at least to see what goes there. Something that sometimes happens to me at conferences, and I'll say this quickly too, is I might share something about that I'm struggling with, and I get feedback that's not the feedback I was expecting. That might be hard to take. And my gut reaction is first to get kind of a little bit upset, and I won't demonstrate it, but it'll sit with me. And then I'll go back home and I'll be like, I didn't like that. And then the more I think about it, it occurs to me at some moment of lucidity that here's a business person who understands the industry, who just gave me a piece of advice on what their experience has been like or what they know. How silly would it be of me not to take that into consideration in what I'm doing? Because I tend to be very focused that this is how I'm doing this, and then I might get that feedback, and I don't want to say it's negative feedback. It might just be feedback questioning my business decisions on something that might not align with what I thought I was doing. And then I have to take a step back and process. So if you do get feedback, or be open to getting a lot of different types of feedback on things, if you ask for feedback, that's the other thing, you ask for feedback, be prepared. But take it with a grain of salt and think about it. If you're having a reaction to it, why that reaction is, and what might that mean for your business. And if it makes sense maybe to take that advice, or expand in a different area. So I think that's something that happened to me last year that I wasn't prepared for. And it took me a while to get through those emotions. And then I realized this person is absolutely, and they were right. They were absolutely right, except that I was so set in my way of thinking about something. So keep an open mind with the feedback that you might ask for as well. Linda, would you like to share? Oh. Or Aurora?
I'd love to. My connection is not great, hence the camera off, because I'd rather you guys not see me, but I get to follow along with everything. Yes. And vice versa. I'm so excited. I haven't attended a PPN conference before. I'm originally from the East Bay area, but I've been living in Oregon for the past 2 years, getting a master's in publishing. And so I moved back this fall, and I started a position. I'm a marketing coordinator with C&T Publishing, and it's a remote position. And I went to my first conference. It was Pub West last year, and I'll be attending the IBPA one, which is ironically in Portland, this year. But my first conference was last February, and I just found it invaluable to get to meet people and chat about publishing, and I learned so much. And since moving back to the Bay Area, I don't have the strong network that I had for 2 years of networking stuff during grad school. And so that's been my biggest thing is moving back, getting involved. I am part of BayWhip. I'm a mentee like Simone. And we are clearly taking advantage of all the opportunities we can. The scholarship for this conference is fantastic. And just getting to go and be involved, since I just haven't lived here since I've been at a publishing professional point, out of school and everything. And so I'm just trying to make all the connections I can. And like Simone, don't have an explicit goal going into the conference. So hearing all these conversation starters and stuff is so helpful. I'm so appreciative.
Excellent. Great. I think those are, first of all, I'm jealous that you're getting these credentials in publishing. I definitely, that's something that I would have loved to have done. I think you have a lot of information, and each of us has all the tools and things that we would need to be successful at a conference and successful in having a conversation with another human being about publishing and the things that we're passionate about. For those of you that might get a little bit anxious maybe, or are more on the shyer side when you go to a conference, I always try to remind myself when that happens. Well, I don't get that anxious anymore, but when I get asked to speak on things, I remind myself that nobody's asking me to talk about rocket science or chemical formulas. I'm usually just there to talk about publishing or editing or networking, and that's my comfort zone, and those are the things that I know how to talk about. So I have no reason logically to be nervous about things like that. So as long as I think you know what you do and you know what you don't do and what you'd like to do and you put that out there, I think conferences can be really unique opportunities to grow your businesses. So am I missing anybody that I didn't call? No? Okay. So conference is going to happen. It's going to fly by very quickly. We're going to leave exhausted. What's the follow-up after this? What are we doing, Dave, after the conference?
Well, I'm hoping that everybody will join PPN if they haven't already. And what we try to do is provide kind of an infrastructure. Sometimes it's very informal, sometimes it's more formal, like this conference, but for people to connect with each other, to support each other. I think the thing that makes us unusual in terms of an organization that puts on a conference is we are all volunteer. There's no paid staff, and PubWest/IBPA, they put on an amazing 3-day conference or something like that, and I'm sure it's amazing, but they have like paid staff. And
yeah,
this is amazing because the people who are helping put it together are just like the people who are attending. We're all in this together, and we just want to be there and support each other. I will be getting a beer across the street at Jupiter's afterwards if anyone wants to join me. So there's that immediate follow-up. We'll be sending out I think it's pretty standard at this point, sort of a survey. We want to get feedback on the conference as a whole, but also on specific sessions. And that I think, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, there's also an opportunity to say if you want to be involved in planning next year's, please get involved in it. Great thing about an organization this size is that if, for instance, you had wished there had been a session on something that you really are passionate about, you could join. And I'm not saying that would definitely be putting on a session specifically in what you were thinking about, but you are there. If all volunteer organization, you offer your services and putting something together, that's a huge plus. Emily may want to speak to that more, but if you're like Jim is a great example. He hit the ground running with this organization, and he's just involved in every aspect. And last year was his first conference. And of course, we talked about the pro dev sessions. We put those on once a month. Again, those are really fun to get involved with as well. We call them the noon Zooms. And we get somebody or some people talking about something that they are particularly knowledgeable or interested in. And this coming year, we're putting together something called best practices. So we're asking experts to come in and say, what are the best practices in your part of the publishing field?
That's how I got sucked in, by the way. I attended like a 15-minute learn how to edit your PDF thing 5 years ago. And I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And yeah, and that was history. After that, I like joined right after. I'm like, this is the best 15 minutes I've spent in the last, month. And it added a new tool to my editor's toolkit, and then I met this amazing group of people. So, I just want to emphasize what Dave was saying, and I talk about it in my networking books, is about how volunteering is your ultimate networking superpower. Yeah. Because the opportunities that volunteering will open for you are just endless. And I've said this a lot of times before, that the biggest projects I've ever worked on, the ones that have paid the best, have always come from someone that I met who opened that door because they were volunteering with me at a conference, at the registration desk, at creating a panel. You can't. It's very hard to monetize how much the return is when you're volunteering. So if you haven't volunteered for PPN or for another organization, definitely consider that as a really great networking opportunity, because it does open a lot of doors. And speaking of that, Emily, is there anything that we need to know about volunteering for the conference or for next year's conference?
No, I know we are set with our volunteers for this time, but there is, as Dave said on the survey, there is a place to put if you want to be involved in any way. And then we put out a call sort of ahead of the conference a few months, to see who might want to volunteer for, work the registration desk, help set up lunch. There's just a few things. Um, so yeah, so there's just opportunity on that survey to, share your thoughts on, as Dave said, on the actual sessions you attended and ideas you might have for future sessions, for speakers, for if you want to join. I will say that Jen here was a scholarship person, and then she joined our conference committee, and it's been great. So, we have a lot of people who have done that. Someone else who was a volunteer and joined the conference committee, last year's conference committee. It's not, yeah, so lots of places to join us. And Linda, before I forget, so are you maybe I missed it. Are you sharing that handout or
Yeah. Oh, you know what? It's on you can download it on my website, but let me
okay.
see. I'll put a link to that. It's
Okay,
on
great.
my
Thank you.
homepage, but I'll
Okay.
get that in a
Sometimes you
second.
can even put a PDF in the chat.
Oh, perfect. I'll put it in
There's a little file.
Yes, I see that. I
button.
see that. As
Right.
if I've never been on Zoom before, by the way. Oh, let me see. Hold on, my mouse is
And
stuck.
I'll also send the link to everyone who signed up. But there are a fair number of people who signed up who couldn't make it. So
Okay. Perfect. So before we wrap up, the other thing that I wanted to say, let me just put the handout in there quickly. Here we go. Okay. Is we've been here today, we've connected, we've clearly know who each other, we all are. We're going to meet a lot of people there. Keep an eye out for those that might need a conference buddy, who might be like sitting alone or feeling that maybe they're not part of PPN or they don't. So just reach, all you have to say is like, what session are you going to? What kind of work do you do in the publishing industry? Can I introduce you to anyone? Do you want to come with me? I'm going to this next session. Sometimes all somebody needs is just someone to reach out and give them that validation that they're in the right place, and they will tag along. So be the ones, take that initiative to help somebody else, not help somebody else out, but to invite them to tag along to whatever it is that you're doing. I like to do that at the lunch. Jen knows that because I totally crashed their lunch table last year. I was like, oh, hi, what do you want? Can I join? Go and put yourself in the uncomfortable zone for, a break or the lunch session. Just see what happens.
publishing people are nice. I
Yeah.
really can't think of too many people who are like, yeah, that was an unpleasant person. We're not in it for the money.
No.
So,
And I think that's kind of like one of the requirements for joining PPN. You cannot be an unpleasant person, right? That's not one of those
Exactly.
boxes that you have to check.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. Well, that's all I have for everyone today. I don't know if there's any closing thoughts or anything else that we need to share. Plan for parking if you're driving in like me from out of town. I completely underestimated not so much getting to Berkeley, but getting to the block where the conference center was at. It's a Friday morning. That area is busy. And so just give yourself more time, because there's nothing better than enjoying a cup of coffee and a pastry in complete relaxation than having to slug it down because you're going to make it late to the first session. So I know better. I've learned my lesson. But yeah, great seeing everyone.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Yes, this is great. And thank you all for attending. I'm really excited to see all of you here are going to be at the conference, even a couple people from who are not local, which is so exciting. We really are excited for everybody and excited for the day.
Great. Have a great evening, everyone. See you in a week. Take care.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.